Welcome to the Eric Geiger Leadership Podcast. I'm so excited today to be having a conversation with Dr. John Maxwell. He insists that I just call him John. He's John and he's our friend. And John has been a friend to me from a distance for many years. I mean, this is like a dream come true to have him on this podcast. When I first became a leader, I think the first book I read of yours, John, was the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And I devoured that. Oh my gosh, it's 21 chapters. I used to, every team I led in my 20s, I'm almost 50 now. Actually, when this is being released, I might almost be exactly 50. So I'm talking, this is like 30 years ago, that every team I led in my 20s, so for a decade, I would use two books and I would have people read them side by side. 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell and Spiritual Leadership by Oswald Sanders. Both 21 chapters.
Yeah. Okay. Spiritual Leadership by Oswald Sanders was the book that got me into leadership because really? I was a pastor. Oh, really? No. I was a pastor in my first little country church in Hillham, Indiana. And I was finding out very quickly, I had a little country church, that I wasn't a good shepherd. I'm going and seeing the people and doing the things I'm supposed to do, and I'm going crazy. And I'm saying, I want to go grow something. I want to go build something. And I was really, for the first year, I thought, I'm not sure I'm going to make it in a pastoral type of a situation. And of course, I was the guy with Pete Wagner that basically began to use the term of going from shepherd to rancher. And because I said, I can handle, shepherding, I'm not sure I can handle. And I read Sanders' book, Spiritual Leadership, and it changed my life.
Wow.
That was the leadership book. That was the book. In fact, if gosh, next time you're back down at my house, in my office, I'm going to show you that book where I wrote all over that book. And when I came out of the book, I said, okay, I can make it because I'm a leader. I'll be a pastor, but I'm really a pastor that leads. And spiritual leadership was just like my green light to go for it as far as a leader. It's so interesting that book was catalytic with you also. And so that was back in 1970, 71, real early. When I went to San Diego to pastor at Skyline, probably I'm going to guess 88 to 90, somewhere in there, I had J. Oswald Sanders come to my church.
Really?
And I brought him in, and I had him come to all of my leaders, and I walked up with his book that I had read, and I said, let me show you what you meant to me. And I opened up that book, and I've got things I wrote on the front cover, the back cover, all over that book. And I said, you were the person that basically said you can pastor and be a leader at the same time. So anyway, I just think that was for me. That was the book. And so that's great to hear this.
Because I've done the same with your books. I was looking at that book, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and then the 21 Indispensable Characteristics of a Leader.
Yes.
And I was looking at those to prepare for this conversation with you. And man, they're in different pens. So like I've read them multiple times. I read it with a blue pen one time, a black pen one time, notes all in the back. I mean, it's all like just,
messy. It's messy. It's messy, beautiful. Yes. That's what I call it. Messy, beautiful.
Yep. And so your wisdom impacted me so much that,
oh my gosh, that's so good.
From a distance, really, until in recent years being in rooms with you, and then recently being able to spend time with you in a smaller gathering and dinner at your home. And I was most inspired. I mean, John, I'm so thankful for all your leadership insights, but I was most inspired by your love for people who don't yet know Jesus. I mean, I was texting my wife saying, this godly man still tears up and cries over the souls of people who haven't met Jesus yet. I want to be like this. This is what I want my legacy to be. I mean, you inspired me so much, and your marriage, your faithfulness for a long time. And the fact that you have such vision for your life at this season, it's an honor that you would give us this time. So people don't know this about you, even though I'm assuming that most of the listeners have known that you're a prolific leadership author. I didn't know until we had dinner together of how many of your books are still in print. And to me, that was the most shocking, like, biocultural thing, only because I come from publishing and I know how common it is to take an old work out of print. I mean, it was like, is it like 70 something of your books are still in print or something?
Well, you're close. I have 94 books I've written.
Oh,
Okay, 94, and I think 89 are still in print. I think they're only.
oh my gosh.
I think, yeah, I
89.
think I could be 88. I don't know,
Oh,
but
come on.
they're not many. I mean, yeah, they're still. And what's interesting is so many of them, honestly, they sell as many copies today as when they came out, and so that makes me feel good because you want to keep helping people. And I think the reason for that is when I started writing, I made a determination to write on subjects that would help the reader. It's not about Maxwell; it's about the reader. And the question one of my mentors taught me in writing books, Eric, was he said, "John, every time you write a page, ask yourself this question: Will the reader turn the page?"
Huh. Wow.
And he said, "Because you're not there. I mean, like when you're teaching on Sunday, or I am." They're all there. They're not going to leave unless they really have an emergency. They're going to stay there. But when they're reading a book in their family room, there isn't anybody say turn the page. And so so he said, read the page every time, and at the end of the page say, what is there on that page that's so good that the reader will say, I got to go to the next page. And
Right.
he said, if you don't have a reason to go to the next page, rewrite the page.
Yeah.
And that was terrific. uh, to me. That was terrific writing advice. Anyway, I
I
know we're
love
not supposed to be doing writing, but
Oh, this
we
is so, yeah.
we're on books, and I love books. And
Yeah.
the J. Oswald Sanders Spiritual Leadership. That is the holy book for leadership for me. And to hear that you read it, and then with my 21 laws, I'm in I'm in pretty tall company there.
Yes. Before we jump into a conversation about vision, I just want to spend a couple of moments talking about leadership in general with you. One of the quotes that you have been quoted many times, I mean, this is a common quote that's attributed to you. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. It's a very
Yeah.
popular definition. I see it quoted all the time, and that comes from your writing. It's a different definition than there had been a season of leadership where leadership was always presented as control or power or hierarchy. And you know, for years, decades now, have presented leadership as influence. Talk to us about why you define leadership that way. Why is leadership
Mm-hmm.
influence?
It's a great question, Eric. Well, the reason is very simple. When I started, okay, I'm an old man. I'm 78, so let's go back 50 years. Before you were a gleam in your mother's eye. Okay, let me explain. When I grew up as a young leader, leadership was position. It was title.
Yeah.
And so, they're a leader because, in fact, leadership was a noun, not a verb. In fact, when I started doing leadership conferences, Eric, honestly, people didn't come, and I would say, why don't you come to leadership conference? And they'd say, because I'm a leader. They couldn't conceive why they would go to leadership conference because they had a position of a leader. And all of a sudden I realized if I was going to teach leadership, I was going to have to help people know that it has nothing to do with title, has nothing to do with position, it has everything to do I have the ability to add value to people and influence them. In fact, another book I wrote is called The Five Levels
Yep.
of Leadership. Okay.
I read it.
Okay, Eric, when I started doing that lecture in the 80s, early 80s, 82, 83, nobody would come. I had 5 levels of leadership. They wouldn't come. And I thought, why won't you come? And they go, because we're a leader. And so I changed my seminar to the 5 levels of influence, thinking of Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people. And as soon as I said, I'm going to teach you the 5 levels of influence, they flocked to it. They went, oh my gosh, I want to hear this.
Yeah.
You see, they were still thinking leadership was title or position. I don't think that's true near as much today. But I still think leadership is influence and nothing more, nothing less. But here's what's interesting now with social media. And do you like me? Do you not like me? Ups and downs and that whole process. Our whole leadership team and writing team said we got to address that because a lot of people on social media think that because they have so many followers that
Right.
that's influence.
Yeah. They're
And
even called
so I did a lesson. Aaron helped me on it, and we did basically a lesson on helping people understand that just because somebody likes you or gives you a thumbs up, that's not influence. And we define influence basically like this: when you influence people, it's more than thumbs up. You don't know you really have influenced people until they make commitment.
Okay.
Commitment is the indicator that they're truly following you. And so today, if I was writing, I'd probably say leadership is influence, and then go dot dot dot, not social media, not thumbs up,
Right.
and try to explain it. But I still believe without question. And what I love about that is for young people who don't have titles and positions, they'll come and say, "Well, how do I become a leader?" I say it's very simple: intentionally add value to people every day. If
Good.
you intentionally add value to people every day, they'll begin to like you, and then you'll begin to influence them. And so your first influence as a leader isn't because you got a job title or position. It's the fact that you added value to people and they began to migrate to you. So I still think leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less.
I love it. In the early days when you were really teaching that countercultural message to people that leader was a verb, not a noun, that it wasn't a position, but it was influence. How could you tell when a leader you were coaching made that mental shift where they started to view leadership as I'm going to serve people or influence people and not expect that just because I have this title, I can, what would you look for with someone you were coaching that they had a better definition of leadership?
Their attitude toward the people.
Okay.
Instead of I'm the leader, I have the position, I have the title, or, hey, I'm the boss, do as I say.
Right.
Instead of that kind of entitlement that a position or a title gives you, I watched them begin to add value to people and began to serve people. And honestly, leadership is servanthood.
Yes.
And here's the difference: if I'm leading you and I say you serve me, I'm a title position leader. If I lead you and say, what can I do to serve you? I've gotten through that. Now I know leadership is influence. So it's my attitude of entitlement or not entitlement, and it's my action of truly serving that lets
Right.
me know when that principle has been fleshed out into their life.
One of the reasons I love the definition is it really is a Christian definition. I know much of your influence, John,
Totally.
is to leaders all over the globe, many who are not believers, and then who will come hear you speak, and then you'll share the gospel with them, which I love. So there'll be people who don't know God who are attracted to the definition of leadership as influence. But when you really peel it back, because it's servanthood, a Christian should get this definition more than anyone because our king served us. Our king has given us the example and the command to serve others. I mean, it really is a Christian definition in a subversive way sometimes, I'm sure.
Oh, it is. In fact, Eric, the favorite thing that there are two favorite things I've done in writing. And what's interesting, no one would ever guess them because they're not kind of like books. I've written values curriculum for kids in school, public schools, called an I Lead deal, which is it's going to live for generations. The second thing was my leadership Bible.
Yeah.
Over 600, I've got over 600 leadership lessons in the leadership Bible. And so when people ask me about that, I say, well, everything I know about leadership, I learned from the Bible.
Yeah, come on.
And I mean, really, there is nothing I know or teach about leadership that's not from the Bible. I just have learned because I work in a secular world to couch it in a way that they can understand.
Right.
But the values, everything is there. So yes, when you say leadership is servanthood, why wouldn't it be? That's the biblical definition of what a
Right.
leader is. Don't lord it over others. That's entitlement. So yeah, it any person that's a believer, when they read my leadership stuff, it'll resonate because it's truly biblically based.
Yes. Amen. Well, we looked at Nehemiah, and we're starting to, and the vision that he had to rebuild this wall. One of the reasons I wanted to study Nehemiah for the people in our church to serve them well is that there's very few in our church that do what I do, that serve in a church context. The vast
Yes,
majority of people who influence others in our church, they do so in the marketplace, whether a business that they started, or they're working in a company,
100%.
or they're influencing their neighbors, or they're a high school student influencing their peers. I I would love to hear you talk about why marketplace leaders who are Christian are so important to the kingdom. And the reason I thought this would be a great question, I was inspired by, and I really was inspired by your transition out of local church ministry, like out of being a pastor to the marketplace. Although I know you actually felt, at least I couldn't tell if how much pain there was involved there, but I sensed that you felt like there was some criticism when you made that move years ago. But
A lot.
I know you wouldn't have made that move if there wasn't this holy conviction that marketplace leaders can make such a kingdom influence. So I'd love for our people to hear how important their role is as they are a leader in the marketplace who follows Jesus.
Eric, I was writing books to really help pastors learn how to lead, honestly, because that's what I was. I was a pastor for 25 years. But the life-changing moment was when I was with my publisher in Nashville, and they'd done research on my books because my books were starting to really sell well. I couldn't quite figure it out myself. I was surprised and happy, but surprised. And my publisher said, we've done research, and 2/3 of your books are being read by the secular business community, not by, like, they're not being bought in Christian bookstores, they're being bought in secular bookstores. And it's really the business community that's eating you alive right now. They told me that, Eric. And in that moment, just like this, God called me.
Really?
Immediately. In the moment, not a minute later, as soon as I heard those words, I felt God say, cross over. I pastored for 25 years. And I mean, I'm a theologue. But I knew that I was to cross over. And then how do I cross over, and how do I do it right and effective? And how do I get in the marketplace? I've not been in the marketplace. And I felt, again, the Holy Spirit really helped me. I really had guidance. And basically, I felt God saying to me, you go into their world and meet them where they are and serve them and add value to them. It's the Apostle Paul again. I entered their world so I could see things from their perspective. What he said, I became a servant to all. And so I just kind of took that passage, and that kind of became my little, path. And so I went over and served it. And really, for the first few years, didn't share my faith at all. Because I had to get credibility. I had to get their respect before I could get the relationship. And then I was able to. And then, of course, I was able to begin eventually to be able to share my faith. But my last conversation with Billy Graham before he passed away called me. He said, come up and spend a day with me. I went up and spent a day with him. And he said 2 or 3 very impacting things to me. But one of the things he said to me that day was, he said, I think the Great Commission is going to be led by the people in the marketplace.
Yes.
And of course he knew I had already crossed over, and he was encouraging me in that. So for people listening that are kind of in the marketplace, okay, you're in the right place.
Yes.
And you're in the right place because, can I tell you something? That's where the lost people are.
That's right.
The lost people are in the marketplace. And I feel that sometimes we have this gap that lost people, marketplace people, can't get into the church because the culture is so different. And if you look at Jesus in the Gospels, it says Jesus went to the villages, surrounding villages. Jesus went, and when he saw the multitude, he had compassion on them. They were sheep without a shepherd. Now notice what happened. Jesus went, Jesus saw, Jesus felt. I say you don't really get compassion until you get into the marketplace. I don't think you can go to church and say, God, break my heart for lost people. I think you got to go out to where the lost. You want your heart broken, quit praying. Go out there where the lost people are and see the emptiness of their lives, and how really, when you're salt and light, they're hungry for. So I love the marketplace. And in fact, as a pastor, I look back when I pastored, Eric, honestly, when I left it, I thought I did a good job. And now that I've been out of it for 30 years, I don't think I did a very good job as pastor. I wish I could go back and do it over. And one of the mistakes that I made so many, was I had everybody in my church in membership and ministry. I mean, we basically said our slogan was no membership without ministry. I mean, so ministry was kind of the thing that you did as a member. So we helped them find their gifts, and we had them we had literally thousands of people using their gifts in the church. If I could go back, I would help them find their gifts, and I would assign them outside of the church.
Outside of it. Wow.
It was just a miss. It was an honest miss, But as I now, I if I could have what I know now, using their gifts to help them become salt and light. I mean, that's what Jesus told us to be. Salt makes things better, light makes things brighter. So when you're talking about the marketplace,
Yeah.
boy, you're and you and I know, Eric, over half the people are never coming to church.
Right.
They're never coming. They're not coming to Mariners Church. They weren't coming to Skyline. They're not coming to church. So we have to develop a strategy for the church, the people of faith, to go out and see those people. So I say one last thing, because I'm on evangelism now, and
No, this is
Eat up
awesome, man.
five. I'll eat up
I
five of
people
your
love that
podcasts.
their roles are.
After a while, you'll be pulling plugs on me and saying, "Come on, get this old man off." But I don't want you to miss this, and I don't want. Here's what I want the people to hear. Very simple. There are people that you have influence with right now that will never go to heaven unless you share your faith with them.
Wow.
They're not going to find God in the church. They're not going.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make it this burdensome. I'm not even trying to put heaviness on people. But every person that's listening to this podcast, there are some people, the only way they'll go to heaven is by you being salt and light and sharing your faith. And that just excites me, because the more we get people out where the people are, the more, of course, that we're going to have an opportunity to share our faith. So I'm trying to wind down now on that.
Oh, it was excellent. When I came home from spending time with you, my wife Kay said, what was like one of the best things?" I said, "Baby, you got to hear this. John," and I won't say which country, because I know there's countries that you go and share leadership material in that are really like closed to the faith at times. John is gone to this country multiple times. Leaders from some of the multinational companies in that country come to hear him. He says at the end of the last session, it's all been general leadership. He says at the end of the last session, "Hey, this is bonus. You're free to leave, but if you want to
Yeah.
stay, I'm going to share my faith." I mean, man, this fired me up so much. I told Kay, she's like crying and like got goosebumps. She said, I said, "Baby," he then just shared the gospel, shared his faith, and then asked people who wanted to receive forgiveness if they
Oh,
would come
totally.
forward. And like dozens of people became followers of Jesus. So here's a guy who got criticized for stepping into the marketplace, and he's taken the gospel around the world. So, man, thank you so much, man. Thank you for being that example.
Yeah.
Me up so much.
It's surely been my joy. It's truly, I love lost people. I've fallen in love with people that yet have. Here's okay. One more statement. Then I promise you I'll shut up on this. I want people who know me, but they don't know God, to want to know God
Yeah.
because they know me.
Come on. That's good.
That's the kind of life I try. That's when people say, "What's salt and light?" I think that's salt and light. I want people who know me, but they don't know God.
Yeah.
Want to know God because they know me.
Wow.
And that's, if I can live that life, I'm going to be able to help a lot of people find Christ as Savior.
That's a beautiful vision. And excuse me, that's a beautiful vision. I'm going to use that to segue into a couple of questions about vision.
Go
So
for it.
each week in Nehemiah, I'm pulling out a characteristic of a leader, and vision being week one, where he gets this burden for this holy burden to rebuild the
Correct.
wall of his city.
Correct.
You have a whole chapter in the 21 indisputable qualities of a leader about vision. It's actually your last chapter, and you illustrate that vision with Walt Disney's story. And you've written so many books, maybe I'm reminding you. And his initial vision of the disappointment he had at an amusement park, where
Yes.
it could be summed up this way: no chipped paint and all the horses jump. Because
Yeah.
from the distance, it looks beautiful, but when he got close, he's like, only the horses on the outside go up and down, and there's chipped paint. And so for him, the vision began with something is broken that needs to be fixed, which is really similar to Nehemiah. Obviously, we believe Nehemiah's was more holy because it was about regathering the people, but still, Disney's vision was something's broken, something's off. I'm curious, as you've coached a lot of leaders, what are some common sources of vision that you've seen in leaders?
I love that question. And I'm going to give you four. And the first one was Nehemiah, and the first one was also Walt Disney.
Huh.
Because he went to the amusement park, and all of a sudden it wasn't what he thought it was going to be, and it wasn't excellence. I mean, Disneyland excellence, the very best, the finest, the cleanest streets. Okay, Nehemiah, the walls have fallen down. Both of their vision came out of the fact that they heard enough that they had to do something about it.
That's good.
And a lot of vision comes from the fact that somebody's had a terrible life or a terrible experience. How many times have we heard people say your best ministry comes out of your ministry comes out of your misery? Yeah. And so one of the sources is it just was bad, and I had to get good, and so I heard enough that I had to. Another time that they have a vision source is when they're inspired enough. That they get inspired, and honestly, that inspiration they see, and what that inspiration comes is they see something. They see a person, or they see a congregation, or they see a believer that inspires them. They say, "Oh, I want to be like that."
Yeah,
people do what people see, not what people hear. So I think vision comes sometimes out of the fact that I saw something. I thought, "Oh my, I think I could do that." Thirdly, I think a vision comes sometimes out of the sources. They learn something that they really want. They say, "Oh, I didn't know this could happen. I had no idea that church could be this way, or I had no idea that a relationship could be like that." So they want to. They heard they have to. They kind of see they're inspired to, or they kind of learn that they kind of want to. And in fact, okay, my story of crossing over was number 3. That was my source. When the publisher said, "Do you realize that 2/3 of people are buying your books are secular business people?" Had no idea. Eureka. Oh, I learned something today. Oh, I got to cross over.
Yeah.
The last 30 years of my life has been because I learned something that day. I mean, I've always thought, what would happen if the publishers wouldn't have done that research? What would happen if in all likelihood, honestly, I'd probably be pastoring a church still. So I learned. And then the fourth area is that they receive something that enables them to do it. In other words, we talk about the Christian walk, the faith. When a person is forgiven of their sins, and it's because they receive the power of the Holy Spirit. They receive a life that they didn't have before. All things are, old things pass away, all things become new. So those are the 4 sources, I think, of vision. That does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. You also said in that same book, in that same chapter, that you can't buy, beg, or borrow vision. It has to come from the inside. I love that quote. I mean, I know you wrote it many years ago, but it lines up so much with Nehemiah. Nehemiah, just to summarize for the listener, I mean, he didn't go away on a vision retreat. He was arrested with the vision. I mean, people showed up to him and said the walls are down, the people are in disgrace. And he didn't, go to some other website and, photocopy somebody else's vision. He didn't listen to somebody else's keynote talk and say, this is what I'm going to do in my context. He was deeply overwhelmed, and it owned him. He didn't, to quote you, buy it, borrow it, beg for it. It came from deep within him. And when a leader, I know you've seen this because I've seen this a lot. You probably have seen it way more than I. When a leader borrows a vision from another leader or another organization, what ends up happening? Like, what goes wrong when it doesn't come from within you? What goes wrong? What's wrong with a borrowed vision?
I love it, Eric. Yes. What goes wrong when a leader borrows a vision? Everything.
Wow.
Everything goes wrong. I'm so glad you asked this question. And here's why. You take a vision without a burden, it's a daydream.
Yes, come on.
It's a daydream. And daydreams don't accomplish anything. You have to. Vision calls for gravitas. Vision, the way. Okay, how do you separate a player from a pretender? A pretender has a borrowed vision. It's not theirs. Yeah. And what? It's the burden that keeps you in the game. If you don't have the burden for the vision, you check out. Because can I tell you something? Leadership's hard. It's
Yes.
uphill all the way. I had one mentor, Eric, say to me as a young leader that I've never forgotten. He said, "There are no two good consecutive days in a leader's life."
Yes, that's so
And,
true.
and I mean, it's heavy. So
Yeah.
if you've got a borrowed vision, guess what? If it's borrowed, hey, I borrow this from you. I give that back without any hesitation.
Yep.
You can give back what you don't own.
Oh, wow.
But the moment that I borrow the vision, I have gravitas. I have now what, and by the way, it not only keeps me in the game as far as seeing the vision come to pass, it keeps me being a person of integrity on what that vision is, because it's mine. And if it's mine, I know exactly what's supposed to happen. And if I borrowed it from you, Eric, honestly, I'm going back and checking you and say, well, do you still think I'm on the right path? And there's a lack of conviction, and there's a lack of just confidence that you have to have. So we love vision because
Yeah.
it's the dream of what we can be. What most people don't love is the burden. It's like I say to people all the time: the dream is free, but the journey isn't. And it's not the dream that messes people up, it's the journey. What we sit around the table, we talk about being things and doing things. Oh, that's exciting. Then we got to get from the table. Then you got to go do it. And when you got to go do it, all of a sudden we find out if that vision has credibility. There is no credibility in a vision unless you own it.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry, I'm starting to
No,
go.
this,
You're asking great questions. It's your fault, Eric.
it's
You're
so
asking great questions, and you're pushing my lever here, and I'm going crazy. You get my buttons, and but anyway. But do you understand? Does that make sense?
it's so helpful. It's so clarifying as well, because it's one of the reasons I've seen leaders, both ministry and marketplace leaders, change direction so frequently, because I don't think they ever owned the vision. They just were going down a direction because they thought that's the path you're supposed to go. Someone else has been down that path. It's going to work. It's pragmatic. They go down a path where they don't have the burden, and they have the second day in a row that's not fun as a leader. And then
Absolutely.
I'm going to change directions because it can be easier.
It's like renting a car. When you go to Avis or wherever you hurt and you rent a car, can I tell you what you never do? You never wash a rented car.
Right.
I don't pull over about a block away. Say, oh my gosh, I need to get wash and wax this car. It's a rented car. I take it back dirty, hopefully out of gas, with a bunch of paper on the inside. It's not mine.
That is so funny, because I actually have a book that I'm writing on Nehemiah, and I have that illustration in the book. And now everyone's gonna think I stole it from you. I promise I already had it in there. That a rented car you don't treat the same.
For all the people here who hear you preach, I stole it from Eric. Okay. We'll just flip that around. That's no problem.
All right. Well, here's a question I think will be helpful as our people in our church are I'm hoping they're wanting to uncover their, like, what's a source of vision in their life, whether in their role in the home, at school, in the marketplace, or in a place where they volunteer. You have talked about people relying on the history that they have. In your chapter on vision, you say that vision draws from your history, which I thought was important, because Nehemiah's vision was related to who he was. It wasn't as if he got a vision for Persia. He got a vision for Jerusalem. And he was he was in the right position. He was a cupbearer to Artaxerxes. So his vision wasn't out of sync with where he was in life. And so when you coach leaders on thinking about their history, or on, hey, here's some questions to ask yourself about where your vision could come from, what questions do you help them self-assess?
Well,
Self-assess.
the vision is where you're going,
Okay,
but it starts with where you are.
that's good.
If you aren't there, don't try to go there.
Okay.
It's like one person says one time, says, no matter where you are, there you are.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to vision, the credibility and integrity of the vision is that's who you are. When they talked to me again, the publisher said, your books, I'm writing leadership books. This is who I am. This is what I do. So God takes who I am and what I do, and now the vision enhances it to do greater things. But the vision isn't like a oh my gosh, I think I need to be a singer.
Right.
Well, I don't need to be a singer because there are a couple problems. One, I can't sing. That just doesn't help you. And number two is I can't read music. And number three is I don't have a good. I mean, how many reasons do we? And when people tell me, it's like I had a person one time say to me, they said, "Well, I think I'm called to be an evangelist." I said, "Okay." I said, "How's it going?" He said, "Well, it's been 6 months. I haven't had any invitations yet." I said, "I don't mean this unkindly. You're not called.
Right.
Honestly, you're not called. It's like I'm called to be a ballet dancer. I don't think so. I don't think so." So the vision is always grounded in
Yes.
where you are now.
So helpful.
And that gives you now the credibility to go to where you really want to go. But it has to be you. Hey, Saul had a vision for David when he had to go fight the big boy. He said, put my armor on, put my armor on. And David couldn't walk in his armor. I mean, Saul's 6'5", 245. David's 145, probably 5'5". He couldn't even walk. A whole bunch of people try to put someone else's armor on to go accomplish the task of killing the giant. He doesn't need the armor. He needs a slingshot. He needs what he needs what he used to kill the lion. He needs what he used to kill the bear, so he can now take on the big boy.
Yeah.
God's not going to change everything about you because of your vision. He's going to take you where you are, and he's going to change everything within you.
Yeah.
To get to that vision.
That's huge. I mean, I want to ask one more question because this convicted me years ago, and it was a chapter in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership that caused me to look at who I was as a person and the kind of person I was becoming. Mm-hmm. It wasn't officially a chapter on vision, but it's in there. It's embedded. It was on the chapter called The Law of the Buy-in, which here was the quote that you wrote years ago. People buy into the leader before they buy into the leader's vision.
That's right.
And it really challenged me to, as much as I would work on being able to craft a direction that I would take people, that more important would be I would have a life that people would want to follow, that I would be a person more formed into the image of Christ, that I would be a person of credibility and a person of integrity. Do you still feel as strongly about that law, that people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision?
No, I don't feel the same as when I wrote it. I feel more strongly
Wow.
about the law because I know it now. I wrote the book 30 years ago. Well, what's really beautiful is in 30 years, you find out if what you wrote works or not. I mean, you just do. And by the way, I've said things and written things that didn't work. So it's not like I hit it every time. But I think the reason the 21 Laws of Leadership is the best-selling leadership book ever written.
Wow.
And it is still today sells as many as it did in the very beginning 30 years later, because the laws in the leadership book, they work regardless of culture. They work regardless of time. They're laws. And so on the law of buy-in, I'll have this happen many times, especially younger pastors or leaders. They'll come to me and they'll say, okay, I kind of got this vision for my business or for the church. And they'll tell me their dream or their vision, and I'll listen to it. And they'll say, now, what do you think? Does it sound good? Yeah, it sounds okay. What do you think? Do you think the people will go for it? I got to ask you a question. Do they go for you?
Wow.
Have they bought into you? And if the answer is yes, then they're going to buy into the vision. Because people don't follow visions, they follow leaders. Leadership is visual, Eric. People do what people see. So if they buy into the leader, when I think of myself, and I'm in my 30s, I mean, go way back in the early 1980s, and I'm leading my congregation through a $50 million relocation project. I don't have a business leading anybody through a $50 million. I'm 36, and I'm a kid, and yet we're going to the mountain and we're raising the money, even if without the zoning.
Yeah,
and it's because I love them, and they knew I loved them, and I led them as well as I could lead them, and they bought into me. And when they bought into me, then they bought into the vision. So I tell people all the time, Don't cast the vision until you have integrity as a leader and credibility that you can take them where you're going to go. The moment you have that, we're going to be in good shape. You remember, Moses had to die for the people to buy into Joshua. Now he's dead. They can't find him. It's Joshua's day. We got to do what you haven't done for 40 years.
Right.
They had to buy into him.
Huh. Well, that's good.
And then they crossed over.
Yeah. Well, John, this is no surprise to me. I knew this would be filled with, I've just took down so many notes. I knew this would be filled with leadership gold and nuggets. And it's just an honor, really, that you would give us this time. I know our church is appreciative. I'm appreciative. Thank you so much for your ministry and for your influence, your leadership. Very grateful for you.
Thanks for your friendship. You have a great church there in Southern California. And I just am so thrilled that you're leading it and it's going really well for you. And just remember, my name's John, my friend. If I can help you, you know where I am.